Hey Nancy Drew fans, we're back for book 31, The Ringmaster's Secret. Published in 1953, this is the first book credited to syndicate owner Harriet Stratemeyer Adams, who will be the primary ghostwriter for the rest of the original series. If someone were to pick one book that personifies the criticism of the Nancy Drew mystery series, this would be it. Nancy's over-the-top perfection, the totally unbelievable plots, and the rampant elitism are all here. But all of those things to me are Nancy Drew, and as a complete fan of the series, flaws and all, I have to say I really liked this one. The book begins with a charming scene between Nancy and Hannah that pretty much lays out the whole plot. As Nancy paused, Hannah Green remarked with a sigh, "And I suppose that you're going to try to find this circus performer and help her out of her troubles. That's what you always do." In this scene, Nancy's dressed for her morning riding lesson with Signor Roberto. It turns out that Nancy is an experienced horse rider and she's learning trick riding, a skill that comes in very handy as this mystery centers around the Sim Circus, the no-good ringmaster Reinhold Kroon, and his very sweet foster daughter Lolita, who is the star aerialist in the show. Nancy soon goes undercover, accepting a job with her father's permission as a stunt rider in the circus. As part of her act, she somersaults onto the back of a moving horse, stands up, and poses. Shown here on the cover. She seems to execute all these maneuvers perfectly on the first try. She gets glowing reviews of all of her performances, and proof that no skill is too random for Nancy, we learn later that she's also quite a good ventriloquist. Once again, in this book, Nancy and all of her companions are in near constant danger. Her riding instructor, Senor Roberto, is violently attacked. He's bound, gagged, and whipped, requiring the first trip to the hospital that I recall. Ned is punched in the face and mauled by a lion. Nancy falls off a horse that's been hit by a rock. She's also chloroformed and strangled, resulting in a record 3 blackouts. She's also temporarily blinded by acid, and in one of the book's many exciting moments, she and George make a daring escape from a moving train. Nancy's investigation requires a trip to London, and she's obviously a girl who is rarely refused. Then she said, "Dad, will you fly to London with me right away?" "What?" Mr. Drew exclaimed. "Fly to London?" "That's right, Dad. You need a vacation, and you can help me solve this mystery. Who knows, we may find Lolita's mother and bring her back with us." The lawyer laughed. "You're very persuasive. All right, Nancy, we'll go." Ned seems pretty paranoid throughout this book, and he's popping up all over. At the circus in multiple cities, at Aunt Eloise's apartment in New York City, and he's obviously worked up about the London trip. While they were having lunch in a cozy restaurant, Ned suddenly warned Nancy not to get any crazy ideas about staying in England. "Why, Ned," she said, "what a funny thing to say." "Well, I understand Pietro is planning to stay." Then Nancy caught on. She started to laugh. "Why, Ned Nickerson," she said, "just because Kroon told Lolita she couldn't marry Pietro, there's no reason to think he wants to marry me." "I'm not so sure," Ned replied grumly. "Don't be silly," said Nancy sternly. "I'll come back just as soon as I can find out something about Lola Flanders." No food or making fun of best moments, but a few outfits to mention. Nancy wears an attractive blue sports dress on a date to the circus with Ned. She wears dark blue jodhpurs, a white blouse, and soft-heeled slippers to practice her stunt riding. And she wears a white satin ballerina-skirted costume in her big act. Next up, the Scarlet Slipper Mystery.